Hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. This edition of Shift Break is brought to you by Ernex. Obviously, when you're working the bar, you need a break sometimes, and the same is true for your equipment. It needs to be cleaned and cared for on a regular basis just to make sure that it's working right and making amazing coffee. And for that job, I recommend and use Ernex. Ernex has been creating cleaning products for the coffee industry for over 80 years, and they develop products for a wide range of equipment such as cold brew, steam wands, grinders, brewers, espresso machines, and even the first dedicated cleaner for roasters. You know, one of the key things about them and what makes them such a great company is that they work hand in hand with coffee professionals all over the world who test their products, who give them feedback to make sure that what's developed is effective and that it's easy to use. And it's never ceased to amaze me just how powerful and effective Ernex products are. I'm always commenting on just how effortless it seems, and the proof is in using it. The bottom line is that clean equipment makes the best coffee, and the best cleaning products are made by Ernex. So I would encourage you to go find out more information by visiting their website over at ernex.com. All right, so today I want to talk to you about a few things that I think are really critical for thinking of before you expand into a second location. And I'm talking about people who have one shop and want to expand into a second shop. And this move is a lot trickier than you think because it takes a lot of resources away from the first shop, and it can also really impact the culture of the existing shop. And if you're not careful, it can spread a lot of dysfunction that you didn't know was there. So I want to encourage you that you consider a few things before opening a second location or multiple locations. Consider first that the people who are in that first location need to be cared for, and there needs to be a system in place that provides some kind of a security for that care always being there. Because when you open a second location, it takes you and oftentimes some of your best people who are some of your best leaders away from the store, and oftentimes people will feel abandoned by leadership. You're going to want to have a system in place for accountability and to make sure that things are getting taken care of and people are being cared for in the current space so that you don't abandon them in the process of trying to expand the shop. One of the reasons why you'll see some companies expand too fast is because they have a false sense of confidence around the current model of the store. In other words, they declare victory too soon. The life of a coffee shop, I would recommend you be in business for at least 2 years, at least, if not more, before you really start to expand into another location. This might be a longer time for some of you, depending on the situation and how hard it is to get profitable, how hard it is to get a solid crew of people, or give yourself some space to be able to take on more higher level admin work without having to be on the floor all the time. Those are some of the things that you need to consider before expanding, because you absolutely will need those to be in place. Other things to consider are there are functional aspects of your coffee bar that need to be passed on to the second shop, that if they're not put in place and used, and in that culture is formed around this is how we do things, this is how we mop the floor, this is how we do our payouts, this is how we do scheduling. If those things aren't in place, you're just going to be compounding your problems with a second location. It's much harder to change the culture of two shops. So my encouragement is basically to take as much time as you need to get the first one right. And when I say right, I don't mean just so that it feels good and everybody says, yeah, it's okay. I mean, down to the structure, down to the skeleton of the organization. Does it make sense? Is this something that we can easily transport over into a second location that will make that second location run very smoothly? I mean, does your first operation run smoothly? Are there glaring issues that people are telling you about that you haven't really addressed. If you're like the average coffee shop, your coffee shop has these issues. And if you haven't addressed them, then it's time to start thinking about the way that people see you. They see your care for the store. And if you say, we're going to open a second location, are people's first thoughts, well, what about this one? We've got a ton of issues. We're chronically understaffed. We don't have the tools we need. Well, we don't have the direction we need to be able to make the drinks the right way. These are big picture issues. I'm not talking about, oh, there's a tile missing in the floor and they haven't fixed that and they want to open a second location. No, we're not talking about those type of issues. We're talking about systemic issues having to do with systems and operations, your standard operating procedures. Do you have a barista manual? Do you have a great onboarding structure? How are you going to open a second location and bring on people in a confident way, in a way that makes them confident to work for you? All the things that we want to have happen in our shops. Dig in to the current location and really thoroughly make sure that it is running the way it should, in a way that you would be proud for the second location to run. So a caveat here is expansion is not bad. Expansion is absolutely necessary if you want to impact more lives in terms of your staff, if you want to make a better living for yourself as the owner, if you want to have a greater impact on coffee at large with more purchasing power for green coffee. There is a lot of positive stuff that happens when you get to be a bit bigger, and when you take on more, there's more opportunity. But quality opportunity, that depends on the foundation that's been laid in these early stages. So if you're thinking of expanding, I would encourage you, take a look at what you have now and make it as good as you possibly can. Don't just sit there in the office and think about what needs to be done. Ask the staff, ask the management. We talk about building a culture of feedback. You need to have your staff involved because they're the ones using this product that you've created, this coffee shop. It's like software. A smart software developer is going to pay attention to the user's experience. And a smart owner is going to also tap into the knowledge and the experience of those who are working for them, and not just write them off and blow them off and think of themselves as just beyond that. Like the business person, the visionary, somehow floating above everybody else. No, this is something that needs to make sense for everybody, or it won't work for you, it won't work for them, and your community is going to suffer because they're not going to be experiencing something in your shop that has realized its true potential. And they could have had so much more if only we had slowed down just a bit, thought about what it is that we have now, done our due diligence to build a great foundation that will support expansion before just jumping on opportunities without being ready through and through. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you. It makes me so happy when I hear operators talk about expansion in terms of, we're not quite ready yet. We have some more improvements to do on our current model just to make sure that the second one is going to be successful and that we're taking care of everybody. Those are rare. That is a rare owner. And I hope maybe these words have encouraged you to follow that example. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for joining me. Go to earnex.com for more information about the best cleaner you can use for all of your coffee needs. And I will see you here next week for another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.